There's a reason we're drawn to stories about power, secrets, and unexpected love. Because deep down, most of us are trying to decode the people around us, especially those who seem like they have it all together. But what happens when the person you thought you married for convenience turns out to be the most complicated puzzle of your life? This is the story of Rachel Carter, a woman who signed her name on a contract for wealth, but discovered something far more terrifying and beautiful lurking behind the man she thought she'd outsmarted. The first time Rachel walked into Nathan Cross's office, she already knew everything she needed to know about him, or so she thought. He was wealthy, elusive, and as emotionally expressive as a concrete wall. Rumors swirled about his past, but none of it mattered to her. All she saw was an opportunity. Nathan wasn't looking for love. He wanted a partnership, a one-year marriage, no strings attached. In exchange, Rachel would gain access to a life most people couldn't even dream of. No prenup, no restrictions, she asked, half mocking. One condition, he said, stay married for 12 months. After that, you're free to go. It sounded absurdly easy. A year of silent dinners and cold luxury in exchange for a lifetime of financial freedom, Rachel signed without hesitation. But here's where it gets interesting. Nobody tells you what happens when you walk into a transaction and come out with your heart shredded. The wedding was spectacle without soul. Designer gowns, glimmering champagne glasses, drone shots of the penthouse ceremony for the press, but no vows exchanged beyond what the legal script required. Even their kiss felt like a handshake. Rachel was playing a role, and so was Nathan. But she underestimated how exhausting it would be to live a lie so convincingly. Within weeks of moving into his estate, Rachel realized something was off. Nathan didn't care for public appearances. He rarely entertained guests. And most strangely of all, he had a locked door at the end of a narrow hallway that no one seemed to talk about. If this were a romance novel, that would be the metaphorical forbidden fruit, and Rachel, of course, couldn't resist. But this wasn't a romance, not yet. It started with small things. The way he avoided eye contact when she asked personal questions. The way he disappeared for hours without explanation. The fact that his house staff were professional to the point of robotic, never gossiping, never revealing anything. Rachel knew high society people loved their secrets, but this felt like something else, like an operation hiding in plain sight. One night she saw him enter the locked room. The door didn't fully close behind him, and in that brief second she glimpsed something she never expected. Not fine art, not rare antiques, but surveillance monitors, maps marked in red, and what looked like intel reports. Who the hell was this man? When she confronted Nathan, his only response was a cryptic warning: there are things you're safer not knowing, Rachel. Now let's pause for a second. This kind of response might send most people running, but not Rachel. And maybe not you either, because curiosity is human, especially when we feel emotionally starved. And this story isn't about gold digging. It's about the shock of realizing you don't know the person sleeping next to you. Many women and men experience that, not in mansions, but in apartments, condos, family homes where silence replaces conversation, and you begin to question everything. Rachel didn't come from nothing. She had ambition, drive, and a sharp tongue. She hadn't married Nathan to fall in love. But when she found herself longing for his attention, when his absence started to ache in places she didn't know existed, she realized the rules of their marriage were already broken. She tried talking to him during dinners. She'd say things like, "You know, we've been married 3 months and I still don't know your favorite book." Nathan would smile politely, take a sip of wine, and answer with some vague platitude like, Books are distractions. Frustrated Rachel once told him, I may have married you for your money, but that doesn't mean I enjoy being ignored. And his only response, you knew what this was. But let's be honest, has anyone ever really known what a relationship is until they're in too deep? Rachel's frustration became a slow, simmering storm. She tried everything: warmth, sarcasm, even calculated silence. But Nathan remained unreadable, like a cipher too complicated to decode. On the surface, everything was perfect: gourmet meals prepared by world-class chefs, designer clothes gifted without a word, vacations she could take alone or with friends. Yet it all felt like a cage lined in silk. The more luxurious her life became, the more isolated she felt inside it. What no one prepares you for when marrying a stranger, especially one as powerful as Nathan is, how quickly your mind becomes your only company. Rachel began pacing halls at night, listening for movement. She tracked his schedule, subconsciously analyzing when he left, when he returned, who he texted. She became a silent detective in her own marriage. And then came the fever. One rainy evening, after a week of fatigue, Rachel collapsed onto her bed, drenched in cold sweat. Her body was burning up, her thoughts a haze. It should have been one of the staff who cared for her. But no, it was Nathan. The same emotionally distant man who never said more than necessary knelt by her bedside, holding a bowl of cold water and gently pressing a cloth against her burning forehead. You should have told someone you weren't well, he said, voice quiet but not cold. Rachel blinked, disoriented. I didn't think you'd notice. His brow furrowed. Of course I noticed. In that moment something cracked, not in her but in him. Nathan didn't just stay with her that night, he didn't leave her side. He adjusted her pillows, ran his hand through her hair when she trembled, even whispered reassurances when she moaned in discomfort. For the first time, he looked like someone who cared, and Rachel, weakened and feverish, felt something stir that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with the terrifying possibility of love. But just when the walls seemed to fall, he built them up again. The next morning, he was gone before she woke. Now here's where the story takes an all-too-human turn. Many of us have felt that moment, that sting when someone shows you a flash of affection only to withdraw again like it never happened. It's not exclusive to billionaire marriages. It happens in real relationships with real people. We second-guess ourselves. Was that moment real? Was I imagining it? Rachel wasn't imagining it. But Nathan, he was at war with himself. Later that week, they attended a gala together, an event that under different circumstances would have thrilled her. Glittering chandeliers, elegant gowns, a sea of elite guests trying to climb the same social ladder she'd just bought access to. But Nathan was distant again. He spoke only to business contacts, rarely looked her way. And that's when Alexander Graham approached a polished investor known for his charm and inappropriate timing. You look stunning tonight, Alexander whispered, leaning close. Rachel smirked. I always do. The flirtation was harmless until Nathan saw. In a flash, he gripped Rachel's wrist and led her onto the balcony, his jaw clenched tight. What the hell was that? She hissed. You think it's appropriate to let men like that treat you like a prize? He said, his voice too low, too intense. And that's when Rachel saw it: jealousy, the crack in his armor. The man who had built a wall higher than any fortress was finally showing something real. And instead of lashing out, she softened. You're jealous, she said, half laughing, half stunned. He didn't deny it. I don't like seeing people act like they can have you, Nathan finally admitted. Because you're not a prize. You're not a game. That night on the ride home, the silence was thick, not hostile, not cold, just heavy with unspoken words. Rachel sat beside him, barely breathing, because the truth was she didn't know what to do with that information. The man she had married for money had feelings, but he was still hiding something else, something bigger. The more Nathan let his emotions peek through, the more Rachel became convinced that his wealth wasn't just money, it was built on secrets. And that locked room. It was more than a curiosity now. It was a line she was willing to cross. So she did. One evening while Nathan was out, she used a key she'd secretly taken from his office drawer. Her hands trembled as she slid it into the lock. The click echoed like thunder in her chest. What she found wasn't just unsettling, it was surreal. Surveillance screens tracking people she didn't recognize. Files with names marked confidential. A cabinet of weapons so neatly stored, it screamed military precision. This wasn't just a private office. This was an operation. Looking for something came Nathan's voice behind her. She froze. He didn't yell. He didn't move. Just stood in the doorway, his presence alone sending chills down her spine. "What the hell is this?" she demanded. He stepped inside, slowly closing the door behind him. "You tell me. What did you expect to find?" "The truth," she snapped. "Because my husband refuses to give it to me." Nathan chuckled, a low, hollow sound. "You married me for security, Rachel. Not the truth." She crossed her arms. "Maybe. But that doesn't mean I deserve lies." Silence settled between them. Then he said something she didn't expect. "There are things in my life that are far more dangerous than you realize. Things I never wanted you involved in." Her mind reeled. Was he a spy, a fixer, a government contractor gone rogue? It didn't matter, because the one thing she knew for sure was that Nathan had never been just a billionaire. And now she didn't know if she had married into wealth or into a war. Real-life parallels to this moment are rare, but not non-existent. Consider the spouses of diplomats, intelligence agents, or executives involved in global politics. There's a constant push-pull between protecting their loved ones and revealing just enough truth to build trust. It's not as glamorous as fiction paints it. It's terrifying, and it's lonely. Rachel wasn't in a fairy tale. She was in a life where love and fear held hands. When she left the room that night, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply knew she had reached a line that could never be uncrossed. But the worst was still to come. One night as she approached Nathan's office, intending to demand real answers, she heard her name through the door. He was on the phone. And what she heard made her stomach turn. She was never supposed to mean anything. Just like that, the air left her lungs. "She's just a piece in the game." The words repeated in her head like gunshots. Rachel stumbled back, heartbreaking in real time. Every glance, every touch, every flicker of emotion, had it all been a calculated move. By morning, she had made her decision. She would leave before he could discard her like an old contract. But fate wasn't finished with her yet. Subscribe our channel for more powerful stories about love, self-growth, and human connection, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next emotional journey. Rachel packed her bags without fanfare. No tears, no second guessing. She told herself that she was reclaiming her dignity, that this time she would leave on her terms. Her car was waiting. The driver prepped for silence, and she moved through the grand corridors of the Cross estate like a ghost, unseen and untouched. She had built a wall around herself now, too. Not to hide secrets, but to survive them. But as she approached the foyer, something pulled her back. Maybe it was anger. Maybe heartbreak. Maybe it was the maddening curiosity that still lingered like smoke from a fire not yet extinguished. That damn door. The one she had opened before. It stood slightly ajar now, like a final invitation or maybe a warning. She should have walked away. She knew that, but she didn't. Rachel pushed the door open, and for the second time her breath caught. There, under dim light, were folders scattered across a desk. Some were marked with names she recognized from news headlines, people involved in political scandals, international disappearances, even one man thought to be dead for nearly a decade. Next to his file there, it was Nathan Cross's signature. This wasn't corporate espionage. This wasn't even military intelligence. This was something beyond governments, something off-grid. Nathan Cross wasn't just a tech tycoon with a taste for isolation. He was involved in something far deeper, far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. The wealth, the power, the control, none of it came from boardrooms. It came from shadows. And in that moment, Rachel realized that she had never really known her husband at all. She didn't cry, but she did shake, because now the stakes were higher than hurt feelings or broken trust. She had married into a world where secrets could kill, and she had no idea whether she was a liability, an asset, or just another file in that room. She stormed to his office, her pulse a war drum. Nathan stood by the window, city light casting a halo around his silhouette. He turned slowly when she entered, his face unreadable as ever. She didn't wait for pleasantries. "You lied to me," she said, throwing the folder onto his desk. "About everything." He didn't flinch. He looked down at the documents, then back at her, almost like he had expected this. "I wanted to tell you," he said quietly. "I just didn't know how." "You mean you didn't trust me?" His jaw clenched. Both. The hurt in her chest wasn't from betrayal, it was from clarity. The realization that she had risked her heart for someone who had built his life on lies, and even when given the chance, still chose silence. "I was trying to protect you," he added. Rachel let out a dry, bitter laugh. "From what? From who you really are?" "No," he said, stepping forward. "From the consequences of knowing me." That's when she saw it again. The flicker in his eyes. Not malice, not control. Fear. He wasn't trying to hurt her. He was trying not to lose her. "Nathan," her voice faltered for the first time, "did any of it mean anything to you?" He took a breath, long, steady, like preparing to jump off a cliff. "I was never supposed to feel anything," he said. "This was a contract. It was supposed to be simple, controlled. But then you got sick, and I realized how afraid I was to lose you. Then that night at the gala, I couldn't stand seeing someone else touch you. And now I'm terrified because you know everything." Rachel stood still, stunned. She had waited months to hear something real from him, and now the truth was unraveling like a wound finally torn open. He stepped closer. "I know I don't deserve it, but if you stay, I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I'm more than the secrets I keep." She didn't answer. She couldn't. Her entire body was trembling, not out of fear, but out of the terrifying possibility that she still wanted him. That even now, knowing everything, she might not walk away. That night, Rachel didn't leave. Days passed. The walls didn't come down overnight. Nathan didn't transform into a fairy tale husband, but he started trying, really trying. And for the first time, she wasn't living in a mansion. She was building a home. A year later, they stood together on a quiet beach, far from the estates and media cameras, far from politics and espionage. It was sunset, the sky painted in streaks of coral and lavender. Rachel stood barefoot in the sand hair, tousled by the wind, her heart steady for once. Nathan approached wearing a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up. No armor, no pretense. He stopped in front of her and gave the smallest, softest smile. "You're staring," he teased. Rachel folded her arms. "Maybe I'm trying to figure out how I ended up falling for you." He laughed, truly laughed, and dropped to one knee. No contracts, no lawyers, no bargaining. Just a velvet box and a question. "Rachel Carter," he said, his voice raw and unguarded. "Will you marry me for real this time?" She blinked, overwhelmed. A year ago, this moment would have seemed impossible. She would have scoffed at the idea. But now, yes, she whispered, then stronger through laughter and tears. "Yes, Nathan, 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring on her finger and kissed her. No audience, no cameras, just them. And this time it wasn't a deal. It was a promise. Their second wedding was quiet, personal. No billionaires, no media. Just a small ceremony with people who knew them both for who they really were. Together, they launched a foundation, one that helped families escape dangerous systems, supported whistleblowers, and funded honest journalism. They called it the Cross-Light Initiative. Because the truth, no matter how hidden, deserves to be seen. Rachel had married Nathan for security. She stayed for love. And in doing so, she discovered something far more powerful than wealth, redemption, trust, and the courage to face the truth with open eyes and an open heart. This story, though fictional, echoes a very real truth about human relationships. We often walk into commitments thinking we understand the rules, marriages of convenience, friendships of benefit, partnerships built on ambition. But people aren't blueprints. They're unpredictable, messy, and full of hidden rooms. Sometimes love doesn't begin with fireworks, it begins with suspicion. And sometimes the most meaningful connections grow not out of shared dreams, but out of the choice to stay even when leaving feels safer. So if you've ever loved someone complicated, if you've ever stayed when logic told you to go, or if you've ever opened a door you weren't supposed to and discovered your heart on the other side, then this story is yours too. Because love isn't about how it starts, it's about how it changes you and how you fight for it once you finally realize it was never fake to begin with. Thanks for staying with us until the end. If this story moved you, made you think, consider sharing it with someone who might need it today. Subscribe our channel for more powerful stories about love, self-growth, and human connection, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next emotional journey.